be in the mix. In the mix. Let me see here. Let me check. As always, I just don't want to waste my time making a video and it not having the proper audio. So there we go. We got that. I got my little note, my little ping there. So hey guys, I'm gonna make a real quick video here. This isn't gonna be a real long video like a lot of the live streams I do. I may come back a little later with something else. But I had one of the guys that watches regularly who's learning. He's been having some issues with rear windows and stretching, and had some successful efforts, had some windows go right, and had some stuff not working out exactly the way that he would like them to at the moment. Problems with some creasing and that kind of stuff, you know, some poor results. So what I wanted to do was just kind of go over this. And I'd like to get a nice, good, tight shot here. You can see this is a Dodge Journey, and for a small rear window, this sucker is really got some curvature to it. So what I'm gonna do is that should be good. I am going to go over this thing, and I'm gonna show just a few strategies, a few different methods, so that you can get a good quality shrink job when you do a job like this. There are lots of vehicles that have shapes to the glass, even little different textures on the glass that you wouldn't notice with the human eye. There's a bunch of different variables involved here when you're shrinking these windows. So this is really, you kind of get a feel for this when you start shrinking a window. You try different little methods, and I'm going to show some real quick. I'll show a real close up, but when you have different finger shapes, like you can see this is a real wide one here. There's a tendency for the film to bunch on some of them, and you really want to make sure that you shrink those properly. But when you're shrinking, you want to make sure that you kind of have a really big area popped up. Um, if you get and there's too much moisture involved, you'll have more of little fingers, which tend to can be a problem more. So I like to have more of really a total relief area popped up, because it really does shrink quite a bit different. But what you'll notice is that with different cars and with different shapes of the windows and different films, even, you're going to have some windows that shrink differently and need to have different little bit different techniques for each different kind of situation. So sometimes you may get by with just kind of waving the heat gun like this. And what you want to do is you want to kind of work this whole area in a systemized way all the way up. But sometimes on a certain window, and I think you might be running into this, the guy that had the issues. I'm not trying to name anybody or give anybody any shame or anything, or I don't know. I don't have permission to use names, so I'm not going to. But um, you may be in a situation where you're not heating up in this area until you've got this whole bottom area kind of bunched up in there. And I'm going to show a technique that I like to use where I evenly distribute the heat all over this whole entire process. I've heard other people talk about this process in regards to even like what's popular now, this crystalline film and Hopper, some of these high-end, expensive ceramic films. And I find it to be true also in some of the films that I work with, where you don't want to completely not throw heat on this area here until the very end. You'll see I'm going to use some techniques that I like, and I'm going to throw some heat up in this area before I get up there. So I'm going to kind of be doing a little pre-shrinking up in this area before I have the lack of better terms, the relief toward the bottom worked up that way. because you'll see you can kind of back yourself into a corner sometimes. So what I like to do is really evenly distribute all the heat so I don't run into that. So let's just give it a rundown. Let's give it a shot. I think the relief is showing up pretty well here. So let's just get close, get a close up going here, and let's see if we can make this work. All right. All right. So here we go. All right, so I'm going to leave that top, but one thing I like to do definitely is heat up a little bit underneath the glass, okay? When you do this, this is a good method, and I'll do a little shrinking, right? I'll do a little shrinking. Now, before I even get too far, let's talk a little bit about prep, okay? I had this already prepped and the film already laid out, so you didn't get to see that. But I use baby powder, and I like baby powder. I can control the layer thickness of the baby powder on the glass. And I know a lot of people use dryer sheets, and I believe you get them wet and then wipe, and then you wait for them to dry. What I do is I get the window completely dry. I do my baby powder technique in the hand. I'll come back later with another video and I'll show that. But this window, when I laid the film on here, it really was curved, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to show this for a video quick here. But so I lay out a good layer of baby powder. Then I put a dab of solution in this area here. Then I lay my film, and then I squeegee off to the sides, center, and then I'll go up and down a little bit on the ends. So now I have these two pockets, these two areas of relief all set up for myself. If you don't have a consistent amount of whether it be from these dryer sheets, and I don't know, I apologize, I've never actually used one of those. So I'm going to make another video and I'm going to try that system for everybody's enjoyment and see. I'll do that at another point in time. But I like baby powder. I've been using baby powder since I've learned how to do these one-piece back windows. It works real well for me. I can control the thickness of the baby powder, and I can get good positive results. And what I do know is that if you have an adequate amount of dry slip agent in the form of baby powder in this technique, if you have an adequate amount underneath the film cannot stick while you're squeegeeing, okay? So when you're shrinking and smoothing, there is a tendency, if there's not enough slip agent under the film, you'll have a situation where the film wants to stick and bind, and that's where you're going to get these creases in these areas, especially when this is a really complex curved window. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So what I'm going to do here as I continue this, I'm going to show you a method where I actually get a hold of the film below and do a little pull stretching and heat that method so that I can kind of better shrink this up, and I'll heat toward the bottom a little bit. I'm going to evenly distribute the heat, and I'm really going to show some techniques that I like. First, I'm going to show the waving technique, right, where I'm just waving the heat gun back and forth. Then I'm going to show you the technique of circling, and the purpose behind these techniques is to evenly distribute the heat so that you're not concentrating the heat in one particular area, because the film will have a tendency to want to bunch and you'll get a crease when you run your hard card over it. That's why I like to do the hand with the glove. You can buy these gloves at Harbor Freight for cheap, like 5 pairs or 10 pairs for $10. I don't know. They're super cheap, but they work good, and it's like the UV glove or whatever, and you can get your hand right in front of the heat gun. You don't have to worry about much of anything. But that's just a little prep up. Let's do a little stretching here, slow-mo, and let's show you what we got. So this is this method of just kind of waving the heat. I don't want to focus too much. One thing I'll do is pop the bottom up and then go back to the top. Pop the bottom up and go back to the top. Now I'm putting heat underneath the film itself. That's a great technique for distributing the heat out nice and even. And you can see when something's kind of position itself where it might be problematic, that's where I might even come in, even pull on the film a little bit, and I'm not getting real close, right? And then I'm gonna on again, and now I've kind of distributed that piece. That chunk was there. I could tell it was looking like it would might want to pinch, so I went ahead and I got some heat underneath it. I got some heat going on top, a little heat underneath, a little heat on top, and I do this process back and forth until I really have the piece shrunk. But the main thing here is to evenly distribute the heat, and you can see I'm shrinking here before I'm even fully shrunk in this more top region, because I can see, because this film is so the relief is popped up. It's very it's a lot of relief that needs to be shrunk, is what I'm getting at. The window's curved, so there's a lot more relief. So there's a lot more film that's bunched up. There's a lot more shrinking that needs to happen. And therefore, what I'll do is I'll tend to do a little, not close up. And you might think, well, there's not much happening, but trust me, you're preparing that area to be shrunk. You're evenly distributing the heat, and you're making for where you're gonna have more success. See, like I'm right now, I'm shrinking that bottom edge before I even have this top part pushed down and smoothed out. And that's going to allow me to have a much more efficient, much more successful shrink job, be able to put this film inside the car and not have any problems. You can see already. Now this stuff, I can probably just smooth this out without even heating it, right? And find out what I'm working with. Um, and now I can see that normally I would continue to heat that, but just for the showing you, don't be afraid too. Sometimes if I feel like something's not shrunk enough, I'll go underneath here a little bit, but back up. There's nothing wrong with going over this again. You can see there's even more to shrink. It may have laid down smooth and flat and look good. Sometimes you'll smooth out a piece of film and it's not even properly shrunk all the way. It'll stick to the glass. It'll look good enough. Then you go inside the car, and this is especially true for side windows. People shrink. They don't have a lot of experience, and they shrink, and they end up still getting bubbles when they're top. Don't be afraid of that. And so stay clear of the edge. I'll even kind of guard this edge so I don't heat it when I'm working over there. I got my hand in the way. This is my UV glove. I don't care. I'm not going to get burnt. Nothing's going to happen. And so that's one section down. Let's go over this top section same way. Okay, I might even do a little heat underneath the film by bouncing it off the wing. I'm not going to concentrate anywhere on that wing too much to damage the paint. And then I'm going to go across, and see the side to side's working well. I'm going pretty slow. I'm not going too close. That's working pretty well. I can see that I need a little heat at the top here. I can go up here and I can pull, and I'm not focusing the heat in any one particular spot. My plotter really cut pretty deep into the film here, so my excess wants to split away from the film. So, but this area right here, this is an area right here where I could probably just really easily crease this just to show you. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to kind of go up there, and I'm going to kind of pull, and I'm going to evenly distribute. I'm staying way back, far away. I don't want to overheat that. And I'm going to go over here some, and I'm going to do a little heating there. And you know what I can even do? I can let that alone. I can leave that totally alone and let it cool down. And I can come back to that. So I'll do that. I'll show you that technique. You don't have to finish it all right away. In fact, a lot of times when there's an excessive amount of heat, leaving it alone, letting it cool down, and coming back to it is a good technique. So I'll go over here, and I'll do the same thing, and I'll pull. This time I'll do the pull method, and I won't even send heat underneath this time. I'll just do, when I pull, I'll go toward the edge a little more and heat up a little bit there. All right. And I'll just continue to, I like the circles, the seems to be really working well. I'll pop this back up. I'll do a little more pulling in this area here. I'm not pulling really hard, but it just is enough so when I wave the heat over it, I get a good heat distribution, and it shrinks the film out in a different way. It really does. But you can't really do that pull method unless you have a glove. Key for that. So I would recommend that you get some gloves. You can order them. They're expensive from the tint suppliers. Here's a spot right here where it's poised for a pinch and a crease right here. Let me see if I can get down on that a little better. Where is it? Right here, right in here. So I'm really gonna wave and do big circles and just I can even go underneath that a little bit. I said I wasn't going to on this side, but now I see that I kind of want to change my game up and do that. I'm not putting the heat in any one particular spot uh, to the point where I'm overheating. All right, and I still have some here. I can leave that. I can go up here. And what I'll do is I'll switch my glove hand and I'll switch my heat gun around. And you can see this here. This is massive curvature right here. This thing, this could easily crease if I focus too much on it. So the whole idea is to just be all over the place with the heat and don't focus the heat too much in one spot. Let's see if we can do this. So I'm going to continue, and I can go more of an upward angle. This is another technique. This way the heat is going up and it's heating here, right? It's giving some heat here. It's even bouncing off the wing and going under the film a little bit. So that's a little bit of a preheat on the other side. And then I'm going to just wave around in a little bit. You won't see too much happening when you do this. I'm really evenly distributing this heat so that I don't have a crease come through. And then I can take the heat away and kind of disperse these fingers maybe a little different, change things up a little bit. I can go back to that more upward angle. Don't get too close. Don't be too antsy. Don't be in too much of a hurry to get it done. I'm going to go up and feed a little more heat behind here because I can see really what I would like to do right now is pull. All right, because I know if I pull and I'm not doing too much, I'm just putting a little tension on the film and it changes the behavior of the shrinking. And it's a little something you got to just practice and try a little bit, put a little time and effort into it. All right. And again, I'm going to just really focus on the top edge here. I'm going to come back to this bottom. All right. And I'm going to slow it down, and I'm just going to aim the heat right there, looking for some sort of reaction, kind of waiting till I see a little shrinkage happening. It gets a little, the behavior of the film changes when you get into this area where it was really popped up, and you just want to take your time, right? So I got that. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to go back to that other side there shortly. But what we'll do here is now we'll come back to this area. Now this area is cooled down. I'll just tell you that one thing is that the film doesn't like to shrink when it's when it's accumulated a lot of heat. It may not sound like it's making sense, but what the film really likes is when it's cool and the heat is waved upon it as it's cool. For some odd reason, a lot of films when they've accumulated the heat and the heat is evenly dispersed and the film itself is actually hot, it doesn't like to shrink. So at that point, when you're having a hard time shrinking in a certain area, it's usually these corners of the window that give problems. Usually here and here, and mostly at the top. What you'll want to do is, I can feel right now this whole thing is hot. The glass is hot. The film is hot. The best thing you can do is walk away and go back when it's cooled down some. So let's go back here. let's focus on this here, this problematic area that I left alone. And I'm gonna come back to this. And now I'm gonna actually no, I'm gonna leave the glove on this hand now. I've got an area here that when I slide up like this, nothing happens. So it wants to keep popping a finger off to the side here, which you may or may not be able to see. Let me just see if I can focus, get the angle right here. Maybe you can see what I'm talking about. Let's see here. Uh, Maybe that'll work. In the future here, I'll have some better GoPro recorded. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull my heat gun back a little bit. I've got an area here that I know could crease easy, and I'm gonna pull my heat gun back a little bit and just focus a little heat toward the top. You won't see much happening, but trust me, this helps. And you may see a little curvature happening, but really it looks like nothing is going on, but it is. I might just slide my finger through some of these reliefed up areas, these fingers, if you will, and just break them apart. Come back again patiently. All right. I'm doing circles. I'm distributing that heat very gently and evenly up there. Then I might come back here and I might do more of an upward angle and just go back and forth a little bit. And you want to play with it, move your heat gun in different directions, give yourself a little bit different opportunities to shrink in a different way. And you can see that just tightened up there at the top. And so, all right, and I'm gonna leave that, okay? I'm not gonna chase after too much because I can also do a little heating on the inside very carefully after I install it. So what I do is I'll make sure that I'm pretty well shrunk right up to the edge where it's cut. For me, it's plotter. For you, if you're not cutting plotter, if you're cutting by hand, you know, leave as much extra as you can. The other thing is this: don't cut a finished piece and then shrink it, obviously, because the film has a tendency to damage and bunch up and crease and melt towards the edge. So it's better if the edge is an inch, 2 inches above where the actual finished cut line is going to be. Then you'll damage the film far away from where you need it to be really nice and rock solid and you know, ready to lay down. I think you can see here. Let's move this back a bit. And let's just go after this little chunk here. Same thing. I'm not going to heat down here where you would think you want to heat. I'm actually going to focus on tightening this up right up in here. Okay, and I'm going to let a little, my circular motion is going to be so that some of the heat, you can see the film popping off the glass because my heat is literally going behind the film at a certain point. And then I'm just gonna then go to the bottom, break it up, move it around. All right, and we're just gonna evenly go around. We're at the end there, so I'm just kind of heating it up to the point where I think it's good, and that's gonna be good. That's a pretty complex window. That thing went in. Or actually, I took my time shrinking that. That's the key, is don't rush and shrink too much too fast. Don't get the film too hot. I'm actually going to make a video and use a digital temperature gun and show what temperatures I'm at in those areas, which will show that I don't want to put too much heat in those areas. But I'll tell you what, I'll throw this piece on real quick just in case I might get a little bubbling toward the edge, the finished edge, and then I can show you how I deal with that. And then I'm going to cut this video short I just wanted to make a really quick short video on shrinking. I'll pick a nice car. I'm gonna try to find a Dodge Dart to show how I do that. I gotta go to the lot after this, and I'm gonna see if I can find the right car so I can demonstrate how that'll look on that car, because that is the car that is giving some problem to one of the guys that watches, and so I'd like to help him out. All right. Let me show you real quick how I go about doing this, because I don't you see how this film is popping off, right? When I approach this and go to put it up there, this piece is no longer flat. So there's a particular way that I want it to sit on the glass. What I do is I first touch this top section down, but then I go across in little sections. I don't try to smooth it out. And what that does is it allows these areas of relief to be popped off the glass. But what it does is it makes it so that I can touch the edge down completely. And why do I want that? If I smooth this out on the glass and think that I need this smoothed out so it's sitting on the glass right, it'll curl and roll off the glass. It makes it harder for you when you peel it, when you pick it up, when you walk away, it can easily peel and fall off the glass. So what you want to do is get it in this motion. So I stick the top, and then as it falls, I kind of line it out or squeegee it out very gently. And then I go around and I make sure that the edges are stuck down. And that'll help. And that's how it's going to look. You can see it's popping off the glass here, 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 here. And I'm not going to try to, smooth that out or make it look any different. Or that's the way I want it to sit up there. All right. So let's focus on this here. All right. So I'm gonna just go over this, polish this up, get all the little layer of baby powder out of the way. And the next car, if I find the right car, I'll come back live a little later after I finish this thing, and I will show you how I lay out my baby powder. I know I've showed it before. You've probably seen it, but you got to go dig it out, and I'll show it on a real quick video that's back window only, so you can really get an idea, and so you can use it for reference later, come back to it and really quickly find the spot if you need to. So let's do this. Let's I don't know if this is it's a little bit high. Let's see here. I can probably, I don't want to get water in my keyboard here. I could show you what I got here. I actually got this rolling PC cart, so I'm kind of wheeling that around. I'm actually looking at the Sling Studio for a multi-camera setup, and I'm pretty excited about that. I think that thing is going to really work well. So let me go clean this real quick. You don't need to oversaturate the window. I'm just going to scrub this out. It's a relatively new car. I know it's in pretty good shape. I'm just going to agitate the surface, break up any dust that might be there. I'm going to feel for any foreign objects, paint, epoxy, welding splatter, any sticker adhesive that might be left over. And that's really about all the contaminants that you could have on a window that wouldn't come off from scrubbing. I'm going to wipe around the edge, and I know the window's clean. I'm going to squeegee. All right. And I'm gonna So there's a whole lot of theology behind the shrinking. It looks like, you see these videos on here and guys are they're just, oh yeah, and then you just throw the film on. It's like they don't tell you any theory or any thought process, or they got music bumping in the background. I mean, I don't know how people are. It leaves you in a position where you have a whole lot of trial and error. You have to learn still on your own efforts and your own error. So if I make a bunch of videos that show these different things and have these different thought processes, laid out for you, hopefully, quicker, be quicker with their learning curve and get to a position where they're able to throw up a good piece of film and make a buck. I mean, that's what this is about. You got to make some mistakes and learn from it, but you don't want to be, having to waste too much film. It'd be nice if you can just go, oh yeah, okay, here's what I want to do, and this is how he does it, and this is what I need to think about, and instead of jacking up 20 pieces, you can make, fewer mistakes, a handful of mistakes, and start producing some good stuff. All right, so I got a reverse roll situation here. I like reverse roll, even for this. A lot of times you see how the film wants to behave. Let me hold this up. It wants to curve. It wants to curl. And that's in the areas where it was shrunk the most. It wants to curl in on itself. So if I don't expose all the film, I have much, much less headache with that. So what I'm going to do is get a good portion of it out. I'm going to touch that top corner and let the rest hang. All right. And this is a whole nother thing. If you want to do the Frankenstein method where you got it all peeled, you can do that too. But I think you're going to want to get into the reverse roll as soon as possible. I mean, look at this. I can put this film up here and I can tighten that top edge, and I can just, you see this? Can you see this? The film is literally just hanging off the glass. It's not going to get contaminated. It's not gonna be a real major issue for me. I've literally got this film hanging off the glass. All right. So I'm walking away. I'm throwing this away. I'm not bragging or anything, but if I get this up and touch down and have intimate contact with the glass, and then I can position, and then I can just simply bring in these corners, slide myself up a little more if I need to, and I can bring the rest of this in without even contaminating anything. And that's the method I use when I do these back windows on these tailgates. If I can get the thing where the film is hanging, I have enough. I've seen people try to do all kinds of crazy stuff. Have it hanging over their body, have the film draped over their head. They'll try to put this in and slide it down and then touch all along the plastic and get the film contaminated. But it's just effortless. With the reverse roll, I touch the top corner, I get the whole top portion in place sitting on there. I got it hanging off, no contamination. I gently pull it down and put it into place. It's very nice, very easy. And so I'm just gonna do a little squeegeeing. What I like to do is tack down a good section at the top, bring it down. This is as important as the stretching that you did on the outside, is I want to smooth this out. I want to gently smooth this out. And what I'm doing is I'm actually removing all the relief and properly stretching it out toward the corners. The thought process is the same. I got to tack down here. I smooth it out this way. I smooth the rest out toward the corners. I basically stretched it back out just in the same position it was in when I stretched it on the outside. Now I can very gently and systematically, I'm going to keep my front line even up until the end where I'm going to go after the corners, and that's in place. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to kind of, if I just start willy-nilly squeegeeing, I can still crease a lot of these areas. They can still go haywire for me. So if I take a second and do this and smooth it out, I'm going to make a better situation for myself where I don't have to worry about creasing. All right, and I'm gonna drag toward the center, toward the corners. I'm stretching this piece out. I'm removing the possibility of having fingers by doing that. And then it's going to be hard for you guys to see, but now I have a couple very small little fingers that are in there. I'm going to tackle those at the very end. But then after I use this side swiper, and then I come in with this other unit. I forget what the name of this one is, but it's got the handle, and I can push a little bit more. I can get a little more leverage on the thing. I'll get another bunch of moisture out of there. I'm not even drying the blade on these passes. I'm just gonna go over this and show you one more pass. This is all you need. That's why I love these tools, is because these blades, they last so long and they get so much moisture out. I can come back and just wipe the little bit of excess water out of the way. I don't want to agitate the edges too much, but I'm going to dry this all out. Then I'm going to come through with my paper towel, sop up any moisture that's close to the edge. I don't want any moisture left by the edge of the film. It's an absolute no-no, because it can and it will suck back under. So you can see here, I've done that, and you can see how much water I've grabbed hold of. I've sucked up a bunch of moisture that was just sitting around the edge of the film, and that'll get sucked back under the film, guaranteed, and I don't want that. So again, the same thing, a good amount of moisture that I sopped up there. And then, as a final measure, I'm going to come through and I am going to just tighten up a little bit more on the edge where I feel like there's still a little bit of bubble action that could happen. I'm not going to keep my heat gun in any one spot for too long. I don't want to melt the plastic. I don't want to bump the heat gun into the film or the plastic and cause damage. And that's it. And so I'm going to cut the video short there, guys. That's just a quick how-to. Bear with me here for a second. That's just a quick how-to on the back window stretching, and I hope that helps. I'm going to find another car here in a bit, and I'll come through and I will do another little live stream here. I want to keep these kind of tight and short when I got a topic like this, so it's just the topic and nothing else. So I will see you guys here in the next video, and I will talk to you soon. All right.